Hey guys, Andrew Shrout here in the sideboard. I'm sitting with Michael Antrim. How's it going, Michael?
Pretty good, not too bad.
So you have shown up today with a deck that is not new exactly, but is not one that we see a lot of here on the Open Series.
Right.
You're playing Enchantress today.
Yep, that's correct.
So tell me a little about how you arrived at this deck and just kind of broadly what the deck is.
Yeah, well, the past 2 weeks, I've just been having trouble in Legacy, just trying to get a winning record. Normally, that's the only thing I play, so for me to do that bad, it makes me feel not bad.
The only format you play?
Yeah, the only format I play. It makes me feel bad. So I went ahead and was just like, what's something crazy that I can play that people don't know a lot about, that I can have a fun time. And so Enchantress is it.
I think you found it.
Yeah.
So Enchantress, of course, is named after the namesake Argothian Enchantress and Enchantress's Presence. Basically 2 cards that let you draw cards for casting enchantments.
Yep.
And so, how does this deck win?
So what's different with my build, as far as classic builds, is I'm playing 3 Helm of Obedience.
Okay.
Typically, in the past, Enchantress takes a long time to win. They use things like words of war.
The words of cycle from Onslaught that let you replace draw six with the
it takes a lot of manual labor to keep doing all this. You already have the game won, they're locked out, but it takes just so long to win. And so with the Helm, it's just kind of Helm, win, and that's great.
So the win condition there, the combo of Helm of Obedience and Rest in Peace.
Yep, and Rest in Peace is also a terrific mainboard card, so it works out.
Yeah, there are a lot of matchups in Legacy where you would be really eager to board in Rest in Peace, so you're kind of pre-boarded against something like Dredge, for example.
Yep.
And, of course, matchups where it doesn't just win you the game, but Rest in Peace still turns off Tarmogoyf, Deathrite Shaman, things like that. All right, so you're kind of pre-boarded, and actually you get a chance to actually close out a match.
Right,
which
in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, traditionally a problem for these decks was they kind of had to battle against the clock every round.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing that I thought was interesting about your deck, you're playing 4 Miri's Guile.
Yeah, this card's really underrated. I don't see it in a lot of Enchantress decks. Pretty much what it is for 1 green mana, you get a free top in your upkeep. You get to look at the top 3, rearrange them. This is important because you don't always get to keep a hand with an Enchantress in it.
Sure.
So you're looking to find something, or you're looking to find the Helm or something. And so continually throughout the game, playing that turn 1 and just getting to do that for free every turn, you get the best card selection. That's really important.
Okay. So with this style deck, you basically don't get to play Magic unless you find an Enchantress, then, or Argothian Enchantress or Enchantress's Presence.
Not necessarily, because now with the Rest in Peace and Helms, you just play turn 2 Rest in Peace and then follow it up with Helm, and you can win. And that's another reason why it's great. Is the blue decks, they want to counter your Enchantresses, but they're not going to counter your Rest in Peace. So after that, maybe you fight over those, and you just play Helm, and you get a win.
Okay, fair. So all right. I guess you need to find either the engine in an Enchantress or Enchantress Presence, or the actual combo itself. And this card is basically you look at 7 cards in your opener, but if this card's in your opener, you get to look at like 10 or 11 to find some actual action to start the game.
And then like any other enchantment in the deck, it's 1 mana, it'll draw you cards later.
Yeah, okay. And then once you get going with Enchantress, you are just cruising through your deck like that. Sure, makes sense. I want to talk a little about some of your one-ofs. Now, this deck does play Enlightened Tutor and 1 Enlightened Tutor, 4 Sterling Grove, which is kind of a proxy Enlightened Tutor. Yeah. So you have many ways to find any particular enchantment in your deck. So there are some interesting ones here. You have 1 City of Solitude. That one kind of explains itself. It just turns off any counter spell.
Right.
You have 1 Energy Field. This is a card you're actually splashing for.
Yes.
So tell me a little about this card.
It's a really powerful card. Again, it combos with Rest in Peace, so again, it fits in really well there. It's an enchantment. It's just something you can set up that isn't the solitary confinement. That can be sometimes hard to set up fast. Like against a deck like Elves, they can kill you before you can actually set that up correctly. And so the Energy Field will let you do that. Okay.
Solitary confinement traditionally was kind of the anchor of these old Enchantress decks.
Yeah, they want to lock you out first and then kill you.
And this Energy Field is basically just, by virtue of being 1 mana cheaper, it lets you get the kind of sort of half lock into play a turn faster. Okay, that makes sense. And then you have 1 Sigil of the Empty Throne.
Right.
That was a kind of a holdover. You mentioned Words of War. That card, some people use that card, some people use Sigil of the Empty Throne as their main win condition.
Yeah.
You have the Rest in Peace Helm combo now, but you still have the 1 Sigil of the Empty Throne.
Right.
So what was the thought process there?
We have that just to diversify our win conditions. Somebody might turn 1 discard, you take your Helm, Surgical it. You might play against Death and Taxes. They might play a Revoker with a Mama, and you might have trouble getting rid of it. So really, it's just helping you diversify how you're going to win, give you a different way to win.
Okay. That makes plenty of sense. So when you choose a deck like that, you mentioned you wanted to kind of come at the format from a different angle.
Right.
You're kind of hoping to play the metagame to some extent. Let's talk a little about your matchups. What are you hoping to face here today?
Dredge.
Okay, sure, yeah. All right, yeah. The deck with
stuff like Dredge and Burn, it has a fantastic matchup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so outside of decks that just fold to your 4 main deck, rest in peace.
Right.
Then. But anything kind of like broadly, like how's your matchup with things like Delver or Miracles or
the Delver,
the blue decks, you know?
The Delver matchup isn't too bad. Obviously, if things go right for them, everything goes right, it's going to be rough. Turn 1 Delver, blind flip, get you. Stuff like that's rough. But they have stuff like Spell Pierces, where as the game goes along, obviously this deck's all about generating a ton of mana.
Yeah.
So, in the blue, white, red Delver deck, they have 4 plows and 4 lightning bolts. Those aren't very optimal against enchantments.
So yeah, a lot of deadish removal spells, actually full blown dead. Yeah, that you actually don't have a target for Swords of Plowshares. So
I'd say the thing I don't want to play against most is probably like the Bug Delver deck, just because they can have that fast clock, and then they have like Abrupt Decay and the green black Charm.
Okay. The black based tempo decks, they actually have interaction that's relevant against you. They have
discard and counter spells, and then the quick clock, and that's all kind of can be rough.
Okay. That makes sense. But again, like Spell Pierce, Daze, soft counters like that, not particularly relevant against a deck that plays a full 4 Serra's Sanctum.
Right.
A deck that's kind of curving out in a sense with Wild Growth and Utopia Sprawl.
Right.
Okay, so how did the tournament go?
All right, it's going pretty good. Round 1, I played against Sinfins, where the main board Rest in Peace was fantastic.
Sure.
There's nothing more you'd want there. Round 2, I played against a Esper Deathblade deck. That was kind of rough because they have Meddling Mages, they have counter spells, they have discard, and they attack at you at so many different angles that's just a really bad matchup.
Okay.
After that, I played against Metalworker. That's really about who's on the play first.
Sure.
And I was on the play and was able to lock him out. And then I just played against Elves and just had some really great fast hands.
Okay. All right, so you've kind of hit a pretty diverse spread. And you've positioned yourself well against kind of the other niche combo decks, and it looks like you've hit those so far.
Right.
But it's Legacy. You never know what you're going to face in Legacy.
Anything can happen.
Certainly. So we're halfway through, and you are certainly still live to take on this tournament. I'll be rooting for you. Thanks for sitting down with me, man.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage of the Legacy Open here in Detroit.